Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Steggy again, back with yet another Disney Lorcana video. And in today's video, I wanted to give my initial impressions, I suppose, on some of the new cards that were just revealed for set 5, Glimmering Skies. And it's super cool, we got the name and stuff already. I'm recording this on Thursday, the day after the Lorecast, and I'm probably going to have this up on Friday. But, you know, these things, my thoughts or whatever are still pretty fresh, you know, being able to re-look at the cards and stuff, because I was at work, you know, when everything was going on. But regardless, you know, I have everything lumped in sort of like a color order, and I just want to talk about the cards and kind of give my opinions on them. I think they look great. I'm super excited. You know, just really ready to dive into set 5, you know, just new stuff, right? So first up, we're going to talk about Vanellope von Schweetz. Now, Vanellope is a 1-cost inkable character with 2 strength, 2 willpower, and she quests for 1 lore. I mean, she's basically like the Stitch new dog, right, of Amber. Just the generic 1-cost, 2 quest for 1. But she has a lot of, classifications. She is a Storyborn hero, princess, racer, and I really like seeing racer because a bunch of other cards also have that keyword or that trait classification, I suppose. So we'll definitely see something with that, but as of right now we don't. So I don't know what it could be, and I hope it's awesome. She's really cool. The art's really cool. I mean, she is a princess, she is a hero. There's a whole bunch of synergies there. You know, you can do Moana, the new Anna, you know, gives other hero characters some lore, so you know there's stuff there. If we have a shift, you know, Vanellope, this one's obviously a really good target for that, but you know, cool character. I'm really excited to have her. I made a joke on Twitter that she's my chase card, right? But I'll probably try to get a foil of her. I think it's just adorable. Next up in Amber, we only have one other Amber card, and it's Kristoff, Reindeer Keeper. Now, Kristoff is a 9-cost, uninkable character with 3 strength, 7 willpower, and he quests for 3 lore. His ability is called Song of the Herd, and it says, for each song card in your discard, you pay 1 less ink to play this character. And his other ability is just Bodyguard. So, you know, it's kind of like 1.5 abilities there. He's also a rare. Oh, I should have mentioned that. Vanellope's just the common, right? The one we just talked about. But Kristoff here is a rare. I like him. I do like him. I like the mechanic a lot. I don't think he's one of those cards you put into your deck and you want to have, multiple copies of, 3 or 4. Unless you're really leading into those songs, right? I think an Amber Steel deck that has, you know, 20 songs in it or something, you know, running Kristoff there is probably not a terrible idea. But even so, I would probably only run a couple copies because you definitely don't want to see him early on. He's not really going to be any better than, say, even like a Goofy Musketeer, I suppose, right? Yeah, he does quest for a lot, but he does still give banished to Medusa, which feels really bad. But the 3 lore is good, the Bodyguard is good. I mean, if you have a bunch of, you know, songs in hand and maybe your opponent hits you with a whole new world or whatever, you can maybe come out for, what, 4 or 5 ink or something. That's pretty good. Really good stats for the costs and stuff there, but definitely a card you want to play later on in the game. Doesn't die to Maui, right? With that 7 willpower, Maui's only doing 6. He can stick around. Not bad. He can do some good trades with 3. His 3 strength, but you probably want to quest with him with that 3 lore. I don't think he's bad, right? I don't think he's a bad card. I definitely think I think we'll see 1 to 2 copies of him, especially in Steel Song decks, or if you just have a lot of song cards. Because even playing him for 6 ink or so is pretty good. I think that's a pretty good cost to stat ratio. So I think he's decent. I think you'll see some play in decks that can utilize his discount. Now with our 2 Amber cards out of the way, we're going to talk about a couple new Amethyst cards. First up, we have Elsa, the 5th Spirit. Now this Elsa is a 5-cost inkable character with 2 strength, 5 willpower, and she quests for 1 lore. She has, she has a ton of abilities, right? She has Rush and Evasive, so that's pretty good. You don't really see those paired. I mean, you have what, Peter Pan's Shadow, maybe the Shadow Keeper or whatever. Some of those Peter Pan characters I think have Rush and Evasive. But this also just has like more stats, I suppose, to make use of the rush and evasive. But she does have an ability, and it's called Crystallize. It reads, when you play this character, exert chosen opposing character. I think this is actually really, really good. Obviously, with the metagame we have now, she's a really good answer to Diablo, right? The Devoted Herald, I think it's its subtitle. It's the 3-cost uninkable one that can draw a card every time your opponent draws a card. So you can just play this Elsa and immediately challenge that Diablo, or if it's unexerted, exert it, then challenge that Diablo, and then banish it. That's pretty good. But you can also just play her and just have something, have one of your opponent's characters exerted, and then maybe use another one of your characters to challenge into that now exerted character, because maybe, that other character you have has more strength or some sort of benefit or what have you. She can still quest for 1 lore, after she hits the table. So that's really, really good. And because she is an Amethyst, we of course have the Amethyst bounce package. So like on your following turn, you can just bounce her up with Snake, if you want to, or bounce her up, with the Fox and, play her later. I think she's fantastic. She is a super rare, but she's well deserving of that super rare status. I definitely think we're going to see this card played. And what's really nice too is if you're playing the big Elsa, the shift Elsa from set 1, you could just shift this Elsa, the 5th Spirit, on your following turn, because Spirit of Winter has a shift 6, and if you're following, your curve and stuff, you're going to have 6 ink on, the turn after you play this Elsa, and that's going to be pretty good. That's going to feel really good, I think. She's a great card, fantastic art. We're going to see her played for sure. Yeah, she's really good. Our other Amethyst card is Bruni Fire Salamander. Now, I do want to note that not every one of the cards images that I have are like really nice and like clear. Some of these were taken from like their screen grabs from the Lorcana, and a lot of them though are like on the Disney like Ravensburger website, and on like some like news websites, I suppose you can find some of those there as well. But a lot of these are just taken, from the Lorecast until we get like more clear pictures, I suppose. Bruni Fire Salamander. He is a 4-cost inkable character with 2 strength, 2 willpower, quest for 2 lore. He has evasive, which is pretty good, and his ability is called Parting Gift. When this character is banished, you may draw a card. Okay, right? Not bad. Kuzco, the Llama Kuzco, who can come out on turn 2 because he's only 2 ink. He's also inkable. Kuzco has 1 less strength and also quests for 1 less lore. But when he's also banished, you can draw a card. So for 2 more ink, you're getting 1 more strength, 1 more lore, and evasive. There are a lot of cards in Amethyst that we're starting to see that really help you draw cards. Magic Broom, Chernobog's Followers, Kuzco I just mentioned, 3-cost Maleficent, of course. We got Dolores at 4-cost Rabbit, and now of course we have Bruni. So you could just play a ton of characters that draw cards either by coming into play or when they leave play, and you can always have like cards in hand and always keep that pressure up on your opponent. I do like Bruni. He's only uncommon, he's very easy to obtain. The evasive can definitely matter. If your opponent has no answer to him via, challenging, you could get a bunch of lore. And maybe, your opponent might have to do something like be prepared or play, like grab your sword or something like that to remove him. But if he's removed, you get to draw a card. So that's not too bad, right? Not too bad. But again, in the same exact ink slot, you could just play Dolores. And Dolores has 1 more strength, 1 more willpower, and you get the card immediately, and she can still quest for 3. Yeah, she doesn't have evasive. I mean, yeah, and I guess her card draw is a little bit situational because your opponent has to have an exerted character. But still, which one's better, right? It's hard to say. I do like the evasive, though. I think he will see some play. People are definitely going to be trying him out. I know people are trying out the Dolores. He might replace Dolores because, again, he's evasive. And that could be really difficult for your opponent to handle. So you might be able to get a couple, you know, quests in with him before he gets taken out. And if he does, you get to draw a card, right? Not a bad, like, top deck either. Like, if you're really struggling, could be better than Dolores if your opponent has nothing on the field. Like, if they play Be Prepared and then you go to your turn, you could just play Bruni. And now your opponent has to answer him, or you can just keep getting some lore. So I like him. I like him on the fence. I definitely want to try him out. I don't think he's terrible, though. I think he's going to find his way into some decks for sure. I think his evasive really carries him. Okay, next up, we're going to talk about a couple Emerald cards we have. So first up, we have Scar, Vengeful Lion. Scar is a 4-cost inkable character with 4 strength, 2 willpower, and he quests for 1 lore. He has Ward as one of his abilities, so that's pretty good. And his actual ability, though, is called Life's Not Fair, Is It? Whenever one of your characters challenges a damaged character, you may draw a card. It's okay, right? I think he's an okay card. How often do you challenge damaged characters to really make use of this? It's not a lot, right? You're not really doing that a lot. I believe in most cases, like when you challenge, you're basically just taking out the opposing character. Very rarely do you, like, you know, challenge with one character and then that character gets banished and then you have to follow it up with a second character. So unless we see more stuff, you know, I mean, in an Emerald Steel deck that is dealing damage with like Tinkerbells, 2-cost Robin Hood, you know, for example, the Kristoff from set 1 where whenever he quests you can deal 1 damage to something. I mean, yeah, that stuff could work, and then you just have a character or two challenge, you know, these damaged characters, you can draw cards. Okay, I guess, right? I'm not feeling him though. Like, as of right now, I don't like him, right? He is inkable, which is nice. But he only quests for 1, and you probably don't really want to quest with him with his 2 willpower because you want to have him sit there so you can draw cards. But honestly, I mean, I'd rather play Prince John and just play discard effects. So right now, I'm not feeling him. I'm not feeling him. I don't think he's that good, because challenging damaged characters just really isn't, that's not really a thing, I suppose. Now, what is a good Emerald card is You're Welcome. And yeah, it's the song Maui sings, you know, what can I say except you're welcome, from the movie. This is a 4-cost inkable action song card, so a character that costs 4 or more can sing this card for free. And it says, shuffle chosen character, item, or location into their player's deck. Then that player then draws 2 cards, right? So you can choose anything, any character, any item or location on the field, and then whoever owns it shuffles that card into their deck, and then they will draw 2 cards. It's forced as well, which might matter. It's not a may. Like, if you do this on your opponent's stuff, you could play a mill deck, right? They have to draw those 2 cards. So, yeah, I mean, it's like -1. They're still drawing an extra card from their deck, you know, I suppose. So, however, there's a lot of good targets, like, for yourself as well. Being at, you know, 4 ink, we know that Amethyst Emerald is a really good color pairing. You can have 4-cost Merlin Rabbit sing this song and target himself. He gets shuffled back into the deck, so he leaves play. You can draw a card, and then you draw 2 cards from having him sing this song. So it's kind of like Yzma, right? The 6-cost Yzma, but it's in a song form. I like it a lot, though. I mean, even if your opponent has some troublesome, you know, character in play, or a location, or like a lucky dime or something, just shuffle it back into their deck. Yeah, they might draw it again, right, with those 2 cards, but they also might not. So, like, turn 7, your opponent could play a lucky dime, and then on their next turn, they'll be all set with, you know, just, they only need 2 ink, but you could shuffle that back into their deck. And even if they draw it again, they're going to have to spend 7 ink to play the card again. So it could buy you a turn, or just, you know, buy you several turns by having that card removed. I do think its strength, though, is like targeting your own stuff, especially like, I don't know, something you play early on in the game, and, you know, maybe it's only questing for 1, or it's damaged or whatever. Shuffle it back into your deck, right? Get some cards off of it. That's pretty good. I think it's a fantastic card. It's only uncommon, but I definitely can see this making its way into, like, every Emerald deck. Anything that has Emerald in it is going to want to play this card. I think it's really good. All right, next up, we're in like a plethora of Ruby cards. We have a lot of Ruby cards to go over. So first up is Tafita. I think it's Tafita or Tafata. No, Tafita. No, I think it's Tafita. I'm going to say Tafita. I can't remember. It's been a long time. So Tafita Mutton Fudge, Ruthless Rival. She is a she is a 2-cost inkable character with 2 strength, 2 willpower, quest for 2 lore, has no other abilities. She is a racer though. She has that keyword, like the classification as racer. And again, we might see something, with that. She's uncommon. She's kind of like set 1's like Ariel, or I think it's set 3's Genie, where it's like 2 costs for 2 strength, 2 willpower, quest for 2 lore. Not bad, right? Probably really good in draft or limited, of course. There are some shift targets, like she can shift into something, but I don't think I'd shift onto this one. I'd rather shift onto the 1-cost one, which we'll go over here in a second. As far as she goes, she's okay, right? Again, something really good for draft, something really good, for sealed. But yeah, let me actually not jump ahead. Let me move this here. There we go. I had them in a certain order. So next up, we're going to talk about Tafita Mutton Fudge, crowd favorite. She is a 1-cost inkable character with 1 strength, 2 willpower, quest for 1 lore. Her ability is called Showstopper, and it reads, when you play this character, if you have a location in play, each opponent loses 1 lore. This is one of those things where you probably don't want to play her on turn 1 because you're not going to get anything from her effect. Honestly, like, you'd almost rather play the 2-cost one on turn 2, if you want to say to shift. But if you want to play a little bit off curve, she can actually be really, really solid. Now, before I go into this, she's also common. I just mentioned she's a common. Okay, let me talk about her shift target. So we have a shift Tafita. Her subtitle is, we have the shift target is Tafita Mutton Fudge Sour Speedster. She is a 4-cost inkable character with 3 strength, 3 willpower, quest for 1 lore, and as again, she's a shift, she's a Floodborn, so for only 2 ink, she's a shift 2. You can play her on top of one of your other characters named Tafita, and we have 2 other ones that cost 2 or 1, so we do have shift targets. Her ability is called New Roster. Once per turn, when this character moves to a location, gain 2 lore. Okay, she's only uncommon, right? So she's like, stat wise, it's like okay-ish, right? I mean, for 4 ink, she is shifting, right? But you're only getting a 3 strength, 3 willpower character, only quest for 1. But here's what you do. Turn 1, you play a location, some sort of 1-cost location. We do have one in Ruby, it's like Training Grounds or something, but there's a bunch of other 1-cost locations. Like even right now, I know there's like DeVille Manor in Emerald. I think Neverland is the 1-cost one in Amber. And then actually in Amethyst, we do have Castle Madrigal, which has 6 willpower. So you could say Ruby Amethyst, right? Turn 1, you play Castle Madrigal, okay? It's in play. Turn 2, you can play your any Tafita, right? But you could just play the 1-cost Tafita if that's something you want to do as well. Maybe your opponent had quested and they'd lose a lore or something, because say you're going second. So now they lose the lore they gain from questing. Then turn 3, you shift into this Tafita for 2, right? And then for 1 ink, you move her into the location that you played on turn 1. So since she moves there, you can get 2 lore, then you can quest with her, and now you have 3. Not terrible, right? If your opponent has no answer to this, you could play another location on your 4th turn, and then move, Tafita to that location, gain 2 lore, and then quest with her again to get 3, and just kind of go back and forth that way. That's pretty fun, but I would imagine that we are probably going to see some location that really caters to racer characters. It's probably going to be cheap. I imagine it might be even a 1-cost one, but even if it's not, I bet we'll have a location where racers, like anything with the racer, classification, can move there for free. which would make something like, you know, this character just be able to bounce around between locations, and I think that'd be pretty cool, right? It's very fun thematically. It's not terrible. She's an early shift target as well, so she pairs well with stuff like Bucky. I know that's really gross, right? But she pairs with Bucky, and she also pairs with like Blue Fairy. So you can play either one of those two characters on turn 2. You know, turn 1 you can play the 1-cost Tefita, and on turn 3 you can shift, and then your opponent loses a card, or you can gain a card, and then you can move Tefita to a location and get a bunch of lore. That's pretty solid. I actually really like that idea. So, you know, first glance, thinking about it, I think it's fun. I think it's a fun character, and I really hope we can make some use of her. So next up, we'll talk about Wreck-It Ralph. Wreck-It Ralph, the Demolition Dude, is a 3-cost inkable character with 1 strength, 4 willpower, and he quests for 1 lore. His ability is called Refreshing Break. Whenever you ready this character, gain 1 lore for each 1 damage on him. He is a rare, right? So he has a solid effect, you know, for his rarity. There are a few cards that can ready your stuff, especially in Ruby. I mean, from set 1, we have the 2-cost LeFou. When he's played, you can ready one of your characters. And Fan the Flames, which is a 1-cost action, where you can just also ready one of your characters. But you don't. I think LeFou is probably better. But regardless, I mean, if this guy has, you know, a couple damage on him, so what you could do is on turn 3, you play Wreck-It Ralph. And on turn 4, you quest, get 1 lore, and then you can play Teeth and Ambitions, dealing 2 damage to Wreck-It Ralph, and then 2 damage to, you know, another one of your opponent's characters, and then, so he has 2 damage on him. Then you can play LeFou for 2 ink, for your other 2 ink, I suppose. Ready up Wreck-It Ralph, and since he's ready with 2 damage on him, you can get 2 more lore. And so he's quested for 3, and he's essentially safe outside of some sort of targeted removal. So then on your following turn, you can quest for 1, somehow ready him up again, right? Fan the Flames or whatever, get 2 more lore. Sure, right? Okay, sure. But there's a lot of stuff that has to happen, I suppose, for him to be good. If you can get damage on him, I think that he can be really useful. And your opponent's going to be like, well, I can't really ignore him. Because, yeah, his stats aren't, like, amazing. But if you can keep readying him up, like, even at the start of your turn where he has, like, 1 or 2 damage, that's going to add up. I don't know. I think he's kind of a build-around. I don't think necessarily you can put him into your deck and just kind of, like, profit from it. I think he's really good in, like, limited or sealed event, where there's really not a lot of removal. You can maybe challenge something and he can like take something out as like the final bit of damage, and maybe your opponent can't handle him on their turn, so then you ready him up and get like what, 2 or 3 ink or 2 or 3 lore. That could be pretty good, and then quest again with him. Yeah, not bad, not bad. But right now I'm just kind of I think he's just kind of mid, in my opinion, just kind of next up, now this is a card I do like. This is Turbo Royal Hack. Turbo is a 2-cost uninkable character with 2 strength, 3 willpower, and he quests for 1 lore. He has like 1.5 abilities. First, he has Rush, which is really awesome, right? That's for his cost and stuff, really good. Second, his ability is called Game Jump, and it says this character also counts as being named King Candy or Shift. He's also uncommon, right, just as far as rarity goes. Now, we don't have any other King Candy cards. We have no idea what those are yet. We're obviously going to get something. At least 1, probably 2, right? One of them is going to be Shift and probably 1 non-Shift one. So that's going to be really cool. Who knows what it's going to be. However, just stat-wise and stuff, he's amazing. I think this is a really, really good card. He's kind of an upgrade over the 2-cost Queen of Hearts, where she is like a 2-cost with 2 strengths, 2 willpower, quest for 1, and she has Rush. This character has all the same stats, but 1 extra willpower at the cost of not being inkable. But that's still really good. This is like, you know, Mulan, the 1-cost injured Mulan soldier, where she has like more stats for her cost. That's kind of like what this guy does. Well, I guess 2 for a 2/3 isn't uncommon, but he's got some keywords and abilities, so I like him. I really like him. Even without shift, like, you know, if he's not shifting, I think just him being able to come down out of nowhere and like just deal 2 damage is going to be really, really good. Of course, that note, if you wanted to do that, you could just play like the 2-cost Stitch, who also has Rush, but has 3 strength and only 1 willpower. So, you know, I don't know. I get it. But I like him. I actually think this is a really solid card. So I definitely think we'll see him being played. And I really hope we have a really good King Candy card. So maybe we can play both. All right, next up, we're going to talk about Donald Duck Pie Slinger. Now, this Donald Duck is a 5-cost inkable character with 3 strength, 6 willpower, and he quests for 1 lore. He's a shift 4, so he's a Floodborn, right? So for 4 ink, you can play him on top of one of your other characters named Donald Duck. And he has 2 abilities. First, he has one called Humble Pie. It says, when you play this character, if you use shift to play him, each opponent loses 2 lore. His other ability is called Raging Duck. While an opponent has 10 or more lore, this character gets plus 6 strength. That's huge. And he is a legendary. I should note that he is a legendary. We do have a Ruby Donald Duck all the way back in the first set. At only 2 ink, 2-cost inkable character, just like Turbo, right? I think I briefly mentioned him. You know, 2 strength, 3 willpower, quest for 1, no other abilities, right? So might be the most decent shift target we have right now, unless we have like another Donald Duck, or I'm not thinking of one. As far as this character goes, he's definitely meant for like challenging. If he had 1 more lore, I think that would really make him better. But I think he's just really meant to like bully your opponent's early game board. Like he can come down, your opponent loses that 2 lore that maybe they got off, you know, to a fast start with, and then you just use your Donald Duck to just keep challenging anything they have exerted. If your opponent has gone crazy and they have 10 or more lore, this guy is taking out like everything. There are a couple cards he can't take out. Off the top of my head, I know there's a Mufasa who has 10 willpower. So with this Donald Duck's 9, if your opponent has 10 or more lore, he's not taking out that Mufasa, which is kind of crazy to think about. You know, but outside of that, basically everything else is getting banished. Really fun, but if you look at him like, this is my way to control the board without using like Be Prepared or any sort of like removal cards, as far as like, you know, songs or your actions, you're going to use a character, he's not bad, right? Yes, he does get banished to Medusa, which feels really bad. You could, if you went second and on, you know, you shifted him or you played him on turn 5, and your opponent's like, well, I'm just going to play Medusa with my 6 ink I now have, and I'm just going to banish your Donald Duck. Like, oh, well, that feels bad. Now, later on in the game, if your opponent has 10 or more lore, and, you know, you play him and your opponent still has 10 or more lore, he can't get banished to Medusa because he's going to have 9 strength. So that's something to look out for. It's probably better to play him a little later. He might be good both, actually. If your opponent's not playing Medusa, have him bully your opponent's characters in the early game. But if they are playing Medusa, then just wait till they have, like, you know, 10, 12 lore. You can shift him out. He still has that 9 strength, and he can just start taking out stuff on your opponent's board. So I definitely see what his strengths are, I suppose. You know, just being an early game, I'm going to bully my opponent's characters type of card. But I don't know. Some things have to line up for him to be like really, really good. But I think he's okay. I don't think he's like a terrible legendary. And he might actually get better. He might surprise us. But, you know, I think he's fine. If I open him in a booster box or whatever, a booster pack, I wouldn't be upset. Not a bad card. All right, back to the racers. Next up, we have Rancis Slugger Butter. You gotta be real careful. He's a chocolate charger, is his subtitle. He is a 4-cost inkable character with 4 strength, 4 willpower, quest for 1 lore. He's a common, has no other abilities, right? Again, he's a racer, so he does have that like that keyword classification, so that might be useful. But he's like the set 1, set 2 Elsa. I think it's set 1 Elsa. Same stats and everything. So he's a, you know, it's fine. He's whatever. Probably really good and limited, but constructed. I mean, unless we see some really insane racer location thing or whatever, he's just, I don't know. I don't think I'd play him. Next up, we have Snowana Rainbow Cool Competitor. Now, Snowana is a 3-cost uninkable character with 2 strength, 4 willpower, quests for 1 lore, and has rush. Not bad, right? So if we think back, we do have, you know, comparing 3-cost uninkable rushers, we do have Rafiki from the first set. Rafiki had 1 more strength, but 1 less willpower, and also quested for 1. And this Snowana, you know, has that extra willpower, but, you know, 1 less strength. Does that matter? I actually think it kind of does. 2 strength isn't really going to do a lot. 3 is much better, where you can trade with like snakes, you can trade with rabbits, goats, you know, and the fox, of course. And it's unfortunate to always mention these, but these are really popular cards. These are played all the time. Even outside of those colors, like if I'm not talking amethyst, Grandma Tala in Sapphire has 3 strength. Flaversham has 6, so 2 attacks from a 3 strength character, you know, would take him out. Mr. Smee in Steel has 3 willpower, right? I don't know if I mentioned strength. 3 willpower on all these characters, right? So having 3 strength is really, really good. She falls a little short of that. Again, if we have some sort of location that really benefits racers, yeah, she's going to be really useful. But, you know, I almost would rather play Turbo, honestly, for 1 less ink and for 1 less willpower. I just think Turbo might be a little better and faster. But, again, we'd have to see a little more. But I'm just, I don't know. In Limited or Draft, yeah, I think she's pretty good. Finally, we have one last Ruby card to talk about. That is another Vanellope von Schweetz, but this one is Random Roster Racer. She is a 4-cost uninkable character with 3 strength, 3 willpower, and quest for 2 lore. She has like 1.5 abilities. First, she has Rush, so okay, looking pretty good. Second, her ability is called Pixlexia. When you play this character, she gains evasive until the start of your next turn. I know a lot of people looked at her and said, Diablo killer, right? Yeah, you're right. If your opponent has an exerted Diablo, you can put her down. She gets evasive, challenge into Diablo. She survives, right? And then you can quest with her on your following turn if you need to. She's also good at taking out like a Pegasus that's exerted as well. And even if your opponent has shifted Pegasus and now all of their characters are evasive, just put down Vanellope and she can challenge anything just right off the bat. And with her 3 strength, she's going to take out something, which is pretty good. I think this is a really solid card. She is a rare, and she's deserving of that rare status. Now, if you're playing like Ruby Amethyst, you put her down, give her the rush, she charges in there, takes something out. You can, on your following turn, bounce her back to your hand, right? Well, quest with her first, and provided she has survived, just bounce her back to your hand. That way, on a later turn, you can just put her back out, give her the evasive, and challenge something, you know, that needs challenge with evasive. Really good. I actually really like this card. She's going to answer a lot of evasive threats in the game. There are a couple, something like Genie, right, on the job from the first set, who has that 4 willpower she can't take out. Maybe Goofy as well from the first set, but those aren't really played a lot, but maybe they might be. Who knows, right? But I like her. Really cool art. Again, she's a racer. She has that hero princess racer, you know, traits and stuff. I think that's going to be useful. That's going to show up for sure, but I think she's a good card regardless. She's going to make her way into Ruby decks. Finally getting out of Ruby, let's talk about just a couple Sapphire cards that were revealed. First up, we have Merlin, Intellectual Visionary. Now this Merlin is a 6-cost uninkable character with 3 strength, 7 willpower, quest for 2 lore. He's a Floodborn, so he has shift 5. So for 5 ink, you can play him on top of one of your other characters named Merlin. And his ability is called Overdeveloped Brain. And it says, when you play this character, if you use shift to play him, you may search your deck for any card. Put that card into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So it's important to note, you don't show your opponent what you picked because it's literally any card. Now, we kind of had this effect with, you know, the Grandma Madrigal from set 4. You can search your deck for a certain card, a Madrigal character. you'd have to show that card to your opponent and say, hey, look, I found a character that, you know, meets the qualifications and classifications, you know, for me to play Grandma, and I'm going to put her on top of my deck, or, you know, him or whatever. Your opponent's like, okay, all right, that sounds good. When you play Merlin, you don't show your opponent. You can take anything you want and just put it right into your hand, and then you just shuffle your deck up. Really good. Now, I'm used to these types of effects from all the different trading card games I've ever played. Even in base set Pokemon, the very first set to come out had a card called Computer Search. You'd play Computer Search, discard 2 of your other cards in your hand, then you could search your deck for any card you wanted, anything you wanted. You would put it into your hand, then you would just shuffle your deck afterwards. You could find, you know, card draw if you needed to, a plus power to increase an attack, you know, to take out an opponent's Pokemon, you know, whatever. But it could be anything you wanted. Sometimes games were decided by like who was able to get like a computer search and able to find like Professor Oaks and stuff. But that's just how the game was. Like the game was pretty fast and stuff like originally, way back in the day. So to me, I don't see this being a big deal. You are giving up Merlin himself, so there's 1, plus whatever he shifts on top of, so there's 2 cards there, to get 1 card of your choice. So it's kind of, I mean, Merlin does replace himself, I suppose, if you're thinking about it that way, but you have to shift. If you don't shift, his effect doesn't happen. However, there's some really good Merlin targets. There is a 4-cost Merlin in Sapphire. He's got that support. He's got decent stats. He's not really played though, but now he might, unless we have a, you know, a new Merlin. And of course, Merlin Goat and Merlin Rabbit are viable targets for this Merlin, and both of those come out on turn 4. But if you shift this Merlin on top of, say, like Merlin Goat, you can no longer get the additional lore you'd get off the Goat if he left play. So, because the new Merlin, thanks to Googly Glimmers, when he's played, he's going to cover up the text of the Merlin Goat. And even if they both leave play, I think they leave play like together, like as a clump, and you just don't get the effect off the Goat. Or so you don't get the extra lore, and if you play on top of Rabbit, you don't get the extra card draw. But you can get anything you wanted, anything in your deck. And it could even be something like a Madam Mim Snake or a Madam Mim Fox, because then you could, you know, find that card, quest with Merlin, on your next turn, play like Snake, bounce Merlin back to your hand, and then just maybe shift him again and just find something else. So, you know, there's stuff you could do. You could shift him. I made a Twitter post about this, but I mean, you can shift him and find like Let It Go, and he can sing Let It Go. You need more card draw. You could find something like Friends on the Other Side, or the second star to the right, the 10-cost one, and just have like a couple of your other characters help you sing it. You can draw 5 cards off of that. There's so much. You can find anything you needed. Pretty good. I think he's really, really good. He does get banished to Medusa, which feels really bad, right? But being able to find any card in your deck that you need is so good, right? It's really, really good. This is a fantastic card. Right now, I'm going to say he's probably going to be like the Chase Legendary for this set. He's just absolutely amazing. I think he's going to make Blue or Sapphire Amethyst decks a bit stronger just with his inclusion. I think they're going to be just better. I like him. I think he's great. I mean, his willpower, I mean, he doesn't get banished to Maui, right? So I think it's just a great card. Absolutely great card. It feels bad if you can't shift, but with all the bounce mechanics and stuff and so many rabbits and goats and whatever, I think you're going to be able to shift just fine. Next up, we have the Great Illuminary. Now, the Great Illuminary is a 3-cost inkable location card that has 9 willpower and a cost of 2 to move to it. And it has no lore. You don't get any passive lore off of it. Its ability is called Warm Welcome. Characters with support, the support keyword, get +1 lore and +2 willpower while here. It's a rare, and I think it's kind of okay. If it was a move 1, I think it would be worth it in my opinion. And maybe even if it had, I don't know, maybe if it had the passive lore gain instead, it might be better. But as of right now, I don't know. I'm not crazy about it because it costs so much 2 ink to move a character here is a lot. 3 ink just to play the card, and it might not do, it won't do anything unless you have a character, you know, who can move there for free instantly, like a support character. That would be cool. But if you play this on your 3rd turn, you haven't done anything. It just sits on the table, and then you have to wait a turn. And with 4 ink, you're gonna spend half of your ink to move a character here with support for it to quest and stuff. I mean, sure, right? I guess, but I'm not crazy about it. Honestly, I don't really like it. I'd rather play Ariel's Grotto. I think it's the same cost at 3 ink, and you can get like a bunch of lore. And for 1 more ink, you could just play McDuck Manor, which has the same, you know, willpower, and you get 2 passive lore. So I like what they're doing. It's probably like a really good card in limited. And your support characters can have like more survivability and maybe quest like 1 or 2 extra times or something. But I'm not crazy. I don't really like it. I don't like it, and that's just my opinion. If my opponent puts this down, I'll be like, okay, you know, I'm not worried about it. So next up, now this is really interesting. So we have a new Prince John card. This is Prince John Gold Lover. Prince John is a 4-cost inkable character with 3 strength, 4 willpower, and he quests for 1 lore. Now he's a super rare. Okay, I'm gonna say this just super rare with these stats. You'll be thinking, okay, what does he do? So his ability is called Beautiful Lovely Taxes. You can exert him and then play an item from your hand or discard pile with the cost 5 or less for free exerted. That's pretty good. That's not too bad, right? There are some pretty good items that say cost 5 or less. The one that really gets me is Eye of Fates. I think it's called Eye of Fates. From the first set. It kind of died out, but I absolutely love that item card. For 4 ink, you just slap it down, right? Just put it on the table. And you can target one of your characters. You know, you exert it. And that character gets 1 extra lore when they quest. I love it. I think it's just really simple. Yeah, it takes up your whole like turn 4, but I mean, if you're questing with that turn 3 character anyway, you know, there you go, get some more lore. You can have a bunch of those in your deck and just kind of discard them, and then this Prince John here can get them back. So I think that's pretty solid. And I bet we're going to have an item that costs 5, you know, 5 or less. It's going to be something crazy. I mean, we do have like Lucky Dime, which costs 7. So it's not unheard of to have like really expensive items. And I think if we do have a really good item that costs 4 or 5 or less, it might also make something like Magicka, you know, Magicka Dispel from, was it set 3? Where she quests, she gets like lore equal to like the cost of one of your items in play. You can get 5 lore. Another thing that comes to mind is Vault Door. I really tried to make that work. Vault Door is an inkable 4-cost item from like set 3, I think. And what it does is it gives resist +1 to your locations, and any characters at those locations as well also get resist +1. So there might be something there, right? I was trying like a Magicka Dispel location deck using the Vault Door so Magicka could, you know, then quest for 4, which I thought was really solid. And then you would have like McDuck Manor and like Castle and stuff in play, and your opponent's like, oh crap, like, do I deal with the Magicka, or do I have to deal with these items? You're like, aha, or not items, but locations. You're just questing for 4 and stuff. That might be a thing. That might be a thing. I'm looking forward to it, right? I really want like Magicka Dispel to be good. There's got to be something there. She's just so cool, and I mean, you can quest for 7 with Lucky Dime or something. I think she's a cool card, but this Prince John, I would like to see more items that would, I mean, 5 or less or something, like really want to put them in play. Because what are you going to do, put Popsicle back in play? But Tamatoa does that anyway. So with more items, I think he's going to be really good. But on this note of Prince John, I want to also show that there is like our first kind of like official alternate art. Kind of, right? We do have like enchanted cards that have like alternate art. And I think those like 99 puppies or whatever from like set 3 where like there was like 4 or 5 different ones of the same card and they had like different art, but this is an actual like different variation of Prince John, and it's done in the style of the Villainous art, which I think is really cool. Villainous is a great game. If you haven't played it, you should play it. It's a great board game. but I like it. This promo you can only get, because it is a promo, you can only get it in the villainous, like, new kind of starter introduction game they have. So if you wanted, you know, this specific promo, you'd have to get that that starter set thing. But I mean, you can find the other Prince John normally in the set. So I just want to point that out. It's pretty cool, right? Prince John is one of the characters you can play as in the game. Like, the goal is to collect coins and stuff. He's super fun. I really like Prince John. But, you know, just wanted to just point that out there. Cool alternate art. We got 2 cards left. So we're going to steal. First up, we have Kronk, Head of Security. Kronk is a 7-cost, uninkable character with 6 strength, 6 willpower, quest for 1 lore. He is a Floodborn, so he has shift 5. So for 5 ink, you can play him on top of one of your other characters named Kronk. And at this moment, I do want to say, we don't have any Kronk characters that cost less than 6. We have the set 1 Kronk, who was 6 ink for 6 strength, 6 willpower, quest for 2. He was solid for a while. And then I think set 2, is it set 2? Has another Kronk where he's kind of like a mini Tinkerbell, but he also costed 6 ink. So I bet we're gonna have a cheaper Kronk, like 3, 4 ink or something like that. And I'm looking forward to that. I don't know what it's gonna be, but I'm sure we will. Like, we'll have one. His ability is called, are you on the list? And it says, during your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may play a character with cost 5 or less for free. And he is a super rare. This is a good card. Yeah, he is, this is a really, really good card. Your opponent isn't going to want to let Kronk take out any of their cards, because who knows what you could play. Like, the absolute value you could get off of Kronk is insane. Instantly, what I think of is an Amethyst Steel deck, right? You can play your rabbits, you can play your goats for free, you can play Madamim foxes or snakes or whatever. I mean, that's, you know, cheaper or whatever, but I mean, playing like a free rabbit, a free goat, even before you like play ink to do stuff, it's just so good. So good. Yes, he's uninkable and so is like rabbit or whatever, but you don't need to run a ton. He's absolutely amazing. Love this card. I can't, I mean, 5 or less, that's even Maui range. I mean, sure, it's like Steel Ruby, which isn't really popular right now, but I mean, there's some fun stuff. I've done some fun stuff too. We just need like more draw and stuff, I think, but there could be something there. Who knows, right? But so many possibilities. The art is awesome. He's leaning against the lever. I don't know if anyone's noticed that, but maybe that's the right lever this time. And he's awesome. Love this card. Definitely something to keep your eye out for. I think he's going to be one of the best super rares of the set. Finally, the last card I want to talk about is Badanon, Villain Support Center. Now, Badanon is a 3-cost inkable location card with a 7 willpower and a move cost of 2 ink to get to here. And it does have 1 passive lore, so that's pretty good. Its ability is, there's no one I'd rather be than me. It reads, villain characters get exert, pay 3 ink, play a character with the same name as this character for free while here. It's a rare. I don't think it's very good. In my humble opinion, I'm not crazy about it. You could do something like Steel Amber is something that comes to mind. There are a lot of Amber and Steel villains, I suppose. I think there is the Queen of Hearts. I think has a both. Yeah, she has an Amber version and a Steel version. I think the Steel version is the one that every time something is banished, she can ready herself. I think that's what that is. And of course, the Amber one is whenever she quests, I think all of your other villains get +1 lore. I think that's what she does. So, and the one costs 7. The Steel one costs 7 ink. If you want to put a bunch of villains in play, you know, you might be able to do something. I mean, there's also Hades as well. You know, there's the 4-cost Hades, and then we have the big like 8-cost Hades who's shift. I don't know, right? I don't know. My initial thoughts, I don't think it's very good. In my humble opinion, I just don't. Unless we have a villain character that costs a lot, like, I don't know, 9 or 10 ink, but it's just really, really good. And then, you know, you have a villain character with the same name that's much cheaper, right? And you can play it out sooner. Something like, you know, 9 cost Maleficent, right? The Dragon Maleficent, I think she's a villain. If I could play her out sooner than like turn 9, that would be pretty good. But right now we don't have the Steel or Ruby Maleficent. So, you know, except for the dragon. So as a whole, I don't like it. I'm not crazy about this card. So yeah, it's just kind of eh. I mean, the passive lure gain's nice, I guess, but right now, just not feeling it. But yeah, that was my, you know, my initial thoughts or whatever on these like 20 or so cards, 21 cards shown. Really, really excited. I'm really excited for the racer keyword. I think that's going to be really, really cool. And you know, your welcome from Emerald looks fantastic. Kronk is, I think Kronk's going to be crazy. Same with the 5 cost Elsa. There's going to be a shakeup, I think, in the metagame. I think, in my opinion, as long as stuff like Emerald Steel Bucky doesn't get any more like discard mechanics, or maybe we have like ways to help, you know, combat that, I think that'd be cool. I mean, this Kristoff is pretty good to help against, you know, discard. If you get a bunch of your songs in play, you can play the 9 cost Kristoff, and, you know, have some good stats. And Emerald Steel was going to have a hard time dealing with something with 7 willpower. If you can get something big in play, it takes a lot of resources for them to remove it. But as long as those, you know, that one, maybe Ruby, Sapphire, as long as that one doesn't get like too much stronger, right? I want to see a bit more like diversity, like some really strong stuff. That's what I like. I want to see numerous decks be like really, really good instead of like just a couple and you're like, oh man, I hope I don't play Ruby, Sapphire or Emerald Steel today. You know, let me play against like Emerald Ruby, right? Let me play Blurple decks and stuff. I don't know. I think we're gonna see some new stuff, and I'm really excited. Really excited. It's looking good. We saw the playmats. Playmats are cool. I actually really like the Castle Madrigal one, from Encanto. Yeah, from Encanto. I think it looks great. The family one, I think it looks pretty good. Obviously, the Belle one's, you know, amazing, but I honestly would be happy with either one. We finally got those like sleeves that have the back of the Lorcana cards on them, so that's really cool. Yeah, it's great. I'm really excited for set 5. I'm really excited for the set championships, you know, next month. Probably gonna play Mufasa is probably what I'm gonna play. That's what I played at Chicago. I did pretty well. I got my Rapunzel, right? I got my 30 points. I split with my last round opponent. We were both on 27. It was awesome. And my whole table split. No one got their cards out. Everybody had 27 points. We sat down and we said, hey, you want to split? And they're like, yes, I do. Because there was no point in playing. You didn't get any extra points for having like, what, 34 points or something. You got nothing for that. It was a great time. Really excited for set 5. Energized. So, but yeah, let me know, you know, what you thought of the cards, you know, of the reveals. I mean, me personally, I'm a big fan of Vanellope. She's one of my favorite characters, like in an animated, you know, setting, I suppose. I think she's super funny. I love Wreck-It Ralph. So seeing Vanellope actually show up in some cards, really excited. I like Turbo. Like, I'm a big video game guy. So, you know, Turbo and that, everything with the racing. I'm really excited to see that. I want to see King Candy. I want to see where that goes. I'm really excited to play Blurple, honestly. If I can get my hands on like a couple Merlins, I think I might go Blurple starting set 5. It seems really good. You know, Amethyst Sapphire, but might do something with racers. Maybe there's an Amber Ruby racer deck, right? Again, we got to see that location or whatever. That I hope there's a location in Ruby or Amber that benefits racers. It's going to be great. But yeah, anyway, hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. You stay safe out there, make good decisions, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye.